everyone. So nice to see you all. Happy early New Year. I think like all of us, we read the Torah portion in light of everything going on in Israel, and we look for hope. We want to find hope in the words and the pages. And this week in Parshat Vayechi, I'm finding hope in Jacob and Joseph's dreams, in the life cycle of their dreams, because their dreams are attacked, their dreams are interrupted, but ultimately they're fulfilled. I want to begin. We all have source sheets. It should be in your, it was handed out to you, or if you're joining us online, should be on the website. But I want to begin with a poem by Langston Hughes. This comes from his collection Harlem, 1951, is when it was published. And he asked the question, what happens to a dream that's deferred? So I'm going to read it only because I have the microphone. Otherwise, I would be asking you to read. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? And I think when you look at the verses, you see contrasts and opposites. Does it dry up, or does it fester? Right? Is it dry, or does it run over? Does it stink like rotten meat? Does it rot from the inside, or does it crust over, preserve itself, but still only superficially? Does it sag over, just lay stagnant, or does it explode? And I think you could read that last verse in a number of ways. One could be when a dream truly is beautiful and has merit, right? Here, the dream being social, racial equality, and justice, right? This is coming before Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, but I think that's the same dream. But I think you could read that last verse in a couple ways. One is a beautiful dream like that can't go deferred too long. It has to come out. It can't be contained, right? So I think in one case you can read into this riots and violence that emerge, or an explosion in a much more peaceful way, which is creativity. Langston Hughes was the leader of the Harlem Renaissance, which was an explosion of creativity of African American art and literature in the 20s and 30s. But the point is a dream so beautiful and that has so much merit can't be deferred forever. It comes out. It has to break free and explode. And so I want to talk about Jacob and Joseph's dreams, both of which are attempted to be deferred and put off or squashed, but ultimately can't be denied too long because of the beauty and merit of their dreams. So some of the dreams that we're talking about, right? What are Jacob's dreams? He has a couple. He wrestles with the angels, right? He lays his head on a rock in a place called Luz, and he sees a sulam, a ladder up to heavens with angels ascending and descending, heaven and earth meeting, the celestial beings, a beautiful dream. He has another dream. Yes? Oh, that's Joseph. Good. So Joseph's dream, which we're going to get to, is about the sun and the moon, representative of his mother and father, and 11 stars, his brothers bowing down to him. We're going to get to that dream. But there's another dream, which is to see his son Joseph again. Right? So you bring up Joseph. Joseph was sold by his brothers into slavery, which was the brothers' attempt to squash his dreams, to defer his dreams. But ultimately, those dreams come true. And Jacob's dream of seeing his son again, of Joseph closing his eyes to be able to die in the presence of his precious children and of Joseph, who he thought to be dead, comes true. And then Joseph's dreams we touched on, right? So there's that dream that ultimately led to the jealousy and his being sold. But then in the pit, in prison, he interprets the baker and the butler's dreams, which leads to his salvation out of the pit. So hold on to that, because that's going to come back later as well. But let's get to that dream, Larry, that you just brought up. So that's our second text. Joseph, he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers, saying, "Look, I have had another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. And when he told it to his father and brothers, his father berated him. "What," he said to him, "is this dream you have dreamed? Are we to come, I and your mother and your brothers, and bow low to you to the ground?" So his brothers were wrought up at him, and his father kept the matter in mind. There's one thing that really jumps out to me here, which is, why couldn't Joseph be quiet about this dream? We know that he was a kid, and maybe he had a bit of he wasn't mature enough to hold this at bay. But there's another thing in light of Langston Hughes' poem here, which is that a beautiful dream, a dream that has merit, can't be contained. He was filled with a beautiful dream, and it had to come out. He couldn't keep it in. And another, I think, thing that proves that is it says that Ve'aviv shamar et hadavar. His father kept it in mind, right? He berates him, but he says he holds on to that dream. He knows that this is going to come back. There's something to this dream. So even though they try to stamp it out, they sell him to slavery, they almost wanted to kill him, right? They know they can't, and Jacob knows that there's something here that can't be killed, that can't be squashed. Now I want to jump to Jacob's deathbed. He is breathing his last, and he wants something from his son. He has him swear to him that he won't forget him, but bring his bones up when they ultimately leave exile, leave Egypt, and go back to the promised land, go to Israel, that they will carry his bones with them and inter him in the Holy Land. So it says, Jacob said, and he said, "Swear to me." And he swore to him. Then Israel bowed at the head of the bed. What is going on there? What is Jacob's bowing at the head of the bed? What do we make of that? It's this intimate conversation he has with Joseph. What do we make of that last part? Why is he bowing? Great, so this is why you don't call on the rabbis first. This is my friends visiting, this is Rabbi Alana Sandberg from JTS. So she's saying it's the fulfillment of Joseph's dream. If you notice, the brothers had at this point bowed down to Joseph unsuspectingly when they come for food to Egypt, and Joseph is second to Pharaoh. They don't recognize him in this Egyptian royal garb, and they bow down to him saying, "We need food." And there we go. That is the fulfillment of his dream. But there's one piece that hasn't been fulfilled yet, which is the sun and the moon bowing down to him. His mother at this point, Rachel, has died, so that's not possible. But the son, who in this case is Jacob, has not yet bowed down to him. Maybe this bowing down, and remember, it says that he shamar hadavar. He remembered the dream. He kept it in mind, and maybe this last moment, he's bowing down. He's fulfilling that dream. The dream was deferred, but ultimately realized. Any other thoughts? What else could this bowing mean? Who's at the head of the bed? This is Jacob. Jacob is summoning his strength. He's bowing to his son Joseph. Great. Good, and that's, I believe, the Rashi. If you turn the page, this is Rashi, the 11th century famous commentator from France. Oh, okay, I'm going to repeat it. That maybe he was bowing to the head of his family now, Joseph, or, we know that he's the favorite. Maybe Rosh, Hamita, the head of the bed, there's a hint there that really it's bowing down to Joseph. So so maybe it's an acknowledgement of his position in the family now. But there's one other, which is God. Maybe he's bowing to God. And that's this Rashi here. So if you turn to page 2 at the top, Jacob, he turned toward the divine presence. The rabbis learned from this that the Shekhinah, that's God's immanent presence, is above the pillow of a sick person. That comes from Talmud. So there's a couple things I read into this that I absolutely love. One is that we're supposed to imitate God to the best of our abilities. And so we learn that God visits the sick, like God visited Abraham after the circumcision, the rabbis say. So similarly, God visits the sick. Even God does Bikur Cholim. So here we learn that wherever there's a sick person, God is with that sick person. The divine presence is resting, dwelling above the sick person's pillow. But there's another thing that I'm going to read into this in the context of dreams, which is God resting above your pillow. That God maybe guards or protects your most beautiful and meritorious dreams. Just like Jacob guarded the matter, maybe God does too, to the best of our dreams, not letting them be deferred or stamped out. Then Rashi here is saying, and Israel prostrated himself. So maybe what's happening here, V'yishtachavu Yisrael, Israel bowed down. The proverb says, though the lion is king, when the fox has his time, bow to him. This is also from Talmud. What do we make of that? How is this shedding light on what Jacob's doing by bowing to Joseph? Sorry? Yes? Oh, good. That ultimately there is a lack of control, right? We have our dreams, but we can't always will them into existence. That ultimately there's an ingredient here that is hope and faith, that it may be realized, right? It's not always in our hands alone. Good. But I think there's a changing of the guards moment here that our Talmud's reading into it, which is Jacob is the lion, right? He's the head of the family. He's one of our great patriarchs. Though the lion is king, Jacob is still alive. How is it proper that he's bowing down to his son, who's inferior, if you look at it that way? And the proverb goes, when the fox has his time, bow to him. Joseph, who's the fox, he's the up-and-coming. A fox doesn't necessarily command respect the way a lion does, but when it's the fox's time, you acknowledge and you encourage the next generation, your children, the next generation. I want to jump now to one more commentary here about what's going on at the head of the bed here. This is from Chizkuni, commentator from 13th century France. He comments, Jacob gave thanks to Hashem, who had made Joseph's heart decide to bury his father with his forefathers. This is how Joseph's dream about the son bowing down to him was fulfilled. So this goes back to Rabbi Alana Sandberg's point about this is the fulfillment of Joseph's dream. Jacob is doing his part to punctuate and fulfill that dream after so many years. I just want to put two verses in conversation with each other now, which is when Jacob speaks to Pharaoh and blesses Pharaoh, we see him as this sort of old curmudgeon who's experienced so much tragedy and sorrow. And he tells Pharaoh, it says, and Jacob answered Pharaoh, this is the bottom of page 2, the years of my sojourn on earth are 130. Few and hard have been the years of my life, nor do they come up to the lifespans of my ancestors during their sojourns. And we feel for Jacob, who so long thought that his son was dead, his favored son, who's endured so much hardship. And I think where we're finding him in the life cycle of his dreams is the nadir, is the lowest point, right? But then we see, in light of his blessing, his children being surrounded on his deathbed by his children, his dreams finally being realized, he sings a different tune, which this you could imagine is more in poetic verse, just like Langston Hughes's poem from the beginning. Jacob's poem goes, the blessings of your father surpass the blessings of my ancestors. To the utmost bounds of the eternal hills, may they rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the elect of his brothers. So as we look for hope, in these most darkest days, I think we can find it in Jacob and Joseph's experience. Jacob, who is at this lowest point of what has my life amounted to, getting to a point finally where he's seeing that we survive. Israel is strong and will survive and be in good hands in the future, and that beautiful dream it can be deferred, it can be attacked, it can be interrupted, but it can't be destroyed. Which brings us to our last page 3. I just want to bring a couple more texts to bring us home, which is when Jacob blesses Joseph. This is an excerpt from that blessing, which is, the God of your father's house who helps you, and Shaddai who blesses you, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that couches below, blessings of the breast and womb. So there's something interesting going on here, which is, what does it mean, blessings above and blessings below? What do you make of that? Blessings from above, I think we get, right? But what is blessings below? Go ahead. Oh, Sheila says the ancestor. Say more. What do you mean by that? Oh, okay, because they're dead. Including the mother who's buried. So maybe below is referring to the blessings of those who come before us. Breast and womb, giving a hint to parents, to mothers. What was the last thing you said? Probably female. Good. Beautiful. So I like that. Blessings below, meaning ancestors, matriarchs. What else could it mean to receive blessings below? Was a little bit louder? Oh, food, maybe coming from the ground, sort of a Birkat Hamazon thing maybe. That's nice, especially in the context of the Joseph story with famine and having food in Egypt through his dreams, bringing salvation. Good, so Harriet is saying from the depths of despair. And that's the perfect segue to our final text, that even in our lowest moments, in our nadir, in our now, in the current moment, are there blessings to be gleaned? And you could say no, and I want to understand you, because I feel that often, that don't look for any silver lining here. There is nothing to be taken from this. And that resonates with me, and I agree with that. But I don't mean that. I'm not looking for silver lining. I'm not looking to sugarcoat anything that we're experiencing right now. But I do believe that there is blessings even in the lowest of the depths of our despair, which in Kabbalistic terms is Yerida L'Tzorach Aliyah, descent in order to ascend. And we see that in Joseph's story, that he's literally sold into the pit, and we're literally in the pit of despair, and he from there is raised to the position of second to Pharaoh. That to be a Jew is to never let your dreams, though they may be deferred, though they may be interrupted or attacked, to never let them die, to hold on to them and to have hope, even in the darkest times, that they will still be fulfilled. Because a dream that has merit and beauty, what happens to it? Does it expire or does it explode? Can it not be contained? Does it have to come out? So, and going back to what Sheila said about the feminine imagery here, right? Maybe blessings above here could be breast, blessing below could be womb. And there's I'm forgetting her name, I apologize, but there's an author and speaker who says, is this the darkness of the tomb or the darkness of the womb? The question of, in the moment of our greatest darkness and despair, is this the beginning of the end? Is that what we're sensing in this darkness? Or is it the darkness of the womb, where a new world of hope, of love, of better days is waiting to be born? And so that's going to bring us to our final text. This is by Rabbi Zvi Hillel, 20th century rabbi, who writes, "Blessings come from two places, from heaven above and from the deep below. The first applies when a person is above. When one is living in tranquility and prosperity, that is the blessings of heaven above. Sometimes, though, the blessing comes from the depths, when a person is in danger with an abyss below. It is just then that one receives a blessing, the blessing of the deep. It often happens in the life of an individual or a community that it is just because of danger that is faced that salvation shines forth. That was what happened with Joseph, with the blessing coming from the heavens above, from the dream of his ascent to a position of ruler, but also from his terrible misfortune when he was in prison. And it was from there that his salvation came. In our days, too, from the depths of this terrible Holocaust," he's writing during the Holocaust, "from the lowest point, the blessing of self-rule came." That's our most beautiful and meritorious blessing, and we say it every day. We said it just now. Liot am choshi be'artzeinu, to be a free people in our own land. That is our beautiful dream that is deferred, that is attacked constantly, but is never destroyed. Because when dreams are truly beautiful and meritorious, you cannot stamp them out. They can't be destroyed. They must be fulfilled. So I want to leave us in that place, even in the midst of the darkness of our despair, that we can always turn to Torah, turn to community, to each other for hope and for light, and to be each other's guarantor and protector of each other's dreams. May they be fulfilled speedily and soon. Amen.